It's that time of the year again when the major publications publish their best of 2024 lists, and the Wine Spectator is no exception. They made a big deal out of their top 10 list this year and revealed the wines over the course of a week to build up excitement. My team went out and purchased most of the top 10 wines so that I can independently review them and tell you whether Wine Spectator actually selected the best wines of 2024. While wine print media is not going through a golden age right now, Wine Spectator is still standing and it's keeping up with publishing their top 100 lists. This is the 36th version as it was established in 1988. Their editors select the most exciting wines for that list and they write, "In addition, our selection also prioritizes quality based on score, value based on price, and availability based on the number of cases either made or imported into the United States. These criteria are applied to the wines that rated outstanding, 90 points or higher on Wine Spectator's 100-point scale, each year to determine our top 100. My favorite thing about the top 100 lists is that they are still available on the website, so you can go back in time in order to get a glimpse of what the wine world looked like decades ago. 20 years ago, in 2004, they had 2 Sauternes in the top 10, and the 2001 Riesec won first place, which is unimaginable today as demand for Sauternes has dropped significantly. The 2004 top 10 was pretty international, with 1 wine from Chile, 1 wine from the US, 1 wine from Australia, 1 wine from Spain, and 3 wines each from France and Italy. But there was no Pinot, which would be strange today, and there was no white dry wine included in the top 10. But if you look at this year's top 10, there's much less diversity. There are 6 wines from the US, 2 wines from Italy, and 1 wine from Chile and from France. 4 wines were Cabernets and 2 wines are Pinots, and there's only 1 white wine in the lineup. No sparkling wine, no sweet wine, no rosé wine. That's it. In a world where demand for white wine appears to be rising, I think it would be smart to include a few more whites. In my opinion, they should have added more value wines to that list during time when demand for wine is decreasing and consumers spend less. Half of the wines sell for more than $100 and only 2 of the wines sell for slightly less than $50. Last year, for example, they included the Grey Wacky Sauvignon Blanc from Marlborough that retailed for $23, which was a smart move in my opinion. Giving those real value wines a platform is important as many people cannot afford to spend that much money on wine. So let's see whether those wines actually live up to the hype or whether they are the flop 10. I worked on that joke all morning. Let's taste. So let's start off with the only white wine. It's the 2022 Ramey Chardonnay from Russian River Valley in Sonoma, California. And this came in 10th place. I've tasted the wines from Ramey Winery many times in the past and I really like their style. I actually have some of those wines in my cellar. Let me check. Yeah, here we go. This is the 2016 Ritchie vineyard from Ramey, and I'm saving that up for a special occasion at some point, but I think it will keep for a while. David Ramey was one of the pioneers when it comes to Chardonnay production in California. He really looked at what the people in Burgundy did and then imported many of those techniques into California. Whole bunch pressing, oxidative treatment of the must, malolactic fermentation and surely aging, for example. So he's a great guy that did a lot for Chardonnay in California. His kids are now involved in the winery and I met his son at a tasting in California last year. The wine is a blend of 5 different vineyards in Russian River Valley. Russian River is north of San Francisco in Sonoma and it kind of specializes in Chardonnay and Pinot wines. The grapes are whole cluster pressed and the juice is fermented using indigenous yeast. The wine undergoes malolactic fermentation in barrel and it's filled, fined, but unfiltered. They harvested the grapes between the 18th of August and the 6th of September, so fairly early in order to retain freshness. The barrels that are used in the winemaking process are all French oak in order to not get this coconut vanilla flavor that you would get from American oak, but more this fine, spicy aroma that you get from French oak. So if you look at the wine, you can see that it's not 100% clear. If you filter a wine, you remove all of those little particles that otherwise would float around in the wine. That looks better maybe, but you also filter out some of the aroma. So I'm actually a fan of not filtering, if at all possible. This smells good. I mean, this has this lemon zest flavor, a little bit of orange aroma as well. So it's not super aromatic, but there is aroma there. But on top of that, you obviously have this roasted, toasty kind of flavor, like grilled bread or something, reminding me of a little bit of bread, a piece of bread without grilling it. So just this yeasty kind of dimension. So the nose is really complex. You have lots of lemon and orange flavor. There's also a little bit of sawdust aroma, a little bit of toasted bread character coming through. So this is quite beautiful. It's very recognizable as a Chardonnay, and it's really balanced. So the fruit and the oak are really well integrated. On the palate, this is really refreshing, lively, with good grip, a little bit of phenolic grip. The length is really long. This doesn't feel heavy at all. It's 13.5% of alcohol, so it's not really high in alcohol. Many people think Californian Chardonnay is always like kind of this fat, oaky type of wine. But this certainly isn't that. It's really well balanced. So this is really good. At $50 US, it isn't a steal, but it's one of the more affordable wines on the list. And I think it's great that they included this wine from this winery that did so much for Chardonnay. I'm going to rate this 92 points. Wine Spectator gave it 94 points. I think that's a little too high for my taste, but this is delicious. And I think this could compete easily with many Chardonnays from Burgundy that might retail at much higher prices. Okay, before I move on to the next wine, let me first thank the sponsor of this video, Cellar Class. Cellar Class was invented by the brilliant and handsome Konstantin Baum. Sorry. Cellar Class is an education platform dedicated to wine. We currently offer 2 courses that enable you to move from I wish I knew more about wine to I feel really comfortable hosting a wine tasting for my wine friends. Cellar Class combines entertaining video content with in-depth information, downloadable course books, and quizzes to test your knowledge. Our Cellar Class Plus community allows users to take part in monthly live stream tastings with me, exchange ideas about wine with other wine lovers, and learn more in a fun way. The Cellar Class Plus crew also receives discounts from our partners such as Coravin, Ideal Wine, and Wine Access. If you purchase any course, you get 3 months free access to Cellar Class Plus. But as a special thank you right before Christmas to all of you guys, I'm offering 1 free month of Cellar Class Plus for everyone who goes to the website using the link in the description and types in the discount code CC free. That's capital C, capital F, capital R, capital E, and then you're in. Try out Cellar Class Plus for free and risk-free, as you can cancel anytime. Merry Christmas in advance, and now let's get back into the wines. So the next wine in the list in 9th place is the GD Vajra Barolo Albe from Italy. I've never tasted this wine, so I'm excited to open up this bottle and have a sip. I really like Barolo. Nebbiolo is producing some of the best wines of Italy, and this must be pretty good, I guess. Let's taste it. The winery was founded by Aldo Vajra, who was sent back to Barolo by his family from Turin because he was participating in some student protests, and he fell in love with the region. And it's really easy to fall in love with this region because it's one of the most beautiful regions in the world. When he started the winery, he was still too young to do it in his name. That's why it's called GD Vajra, because those are the initials of his father. So he farms 60 hectares, which is quite a lot considering that in this region you have many small growers, and he's certified organic. So this is 100% Nebbiolo. Barolo always is. It was fermented in larger barrels and the wine was macerated on the skins for around about 3 months. In order to round out the wine was then aged for 26 months in large Slavonian oak casks. So this is pretty traditional Barolo winemaking. There was a period where it was fairly common to also use barriques, but that's not as popular anymore. So as you can see, Barolo tends to have a fairly light color. Nebbiolo is a grape variety that produces lighter colored reds, but that doesn't mean that the wines aren't intense. The wine smells of sour cherry. There's a little bit of licorice flavor coming through as well, a little bit of spice. There's not a lot of this tar flavor or rose petals in my opinion. It's more on the fruit side. On the palate, this certainly has quite a lot of tannic grip, good freshness. This is something you want out of Barolo. Barolo is always structured and that makes it so age-worthy and so great with food. You know, the food in that region is really rich. There's quite a lot of butter being used. There's lots of meat. They also have truffles and other really great products. And Barolo is a beautiful match with many of those things. You know, I was actually hoping for a little bit more, to be honest. I'm always on the lookout for great value Barolo. This retails for $42 US. So it's one of the cheapest wine or the cheapest wine in the top 10, I think. But I mean, this is really good, but it's not 94 points in my book. Wine Spectator rated it 94 points. I would rate it 91 points. I think it's very good and it deserves to be in that list. I think it's great to have a value Barolo in the top 10. But yeah, I don't find it quite as exciting. So in 7th place, we have the 2020 Domaine du Vieux Télégraphe, La Crau from Châteauneuf-du-Pape in France. This is a very old domain which was established in 1891 and it has been in the Brunier family's ownership since then. It's the 6th generation, I think, right now. It's not a small winery. They have 100 hectares of vineyards in Châteauneuf-du-Pape and 20 hectares outside of the region. So it's a substantial holding. The vineyards for this wine are planted on the Plateau La Crau, which is highly regarded in Châteauneuf-du-Pape for producing really great grapes. I have slightly confusing information on the age of the vineyards. On the back label it says 60 years. In my information it says 70 years. And Wine Spectator states 70 to 110 years, which obviously make a difference. What is clear though is that this is a pretty old vineyard. Old vineyards usually produce the better fruit, more concentrated flavors, and they're more consistent. So this is a blend of 65% Grenache, 15% Syrah, 15% Mourvèdre, and the rest is Cinsault and Clairette. They include 30% of whole bunches in the ferment, which usually adds a little bit of spice, a little bit of structure as well. And the wine is aged for roughly 2 years in large wooden foeders. Châteauneuf has featured many times in the Wine Spectator Top 100. I think it's a region that produces really great wines, but maybe they are not as popular anymore because they tend to be quite rich, quite intense. And nowadays, many people look for lighter reds. This is at 15% alcohol, which is very common for Châteauneuf-du-Pape. I actually do like those wines. Obviously, you can't drink a lot of it because it just is too much oftentimes. But a couple of glasses can be just delicious, especially if you cool it down a little bit. I think 16, 17 degrees Celsius are pretty perfect for Châteauneuf. So this is again light colored red wine, which is very common for Châteauneuf. Grenache, the main varietal in the region, doesn't produce really dark wines. So this is quite delicious. It has this flavor of cherries, strawberries. There's also a little bit of spice, cinnamon, kind of a little bit of charred wood character coming through. There's also this cacao powder kind of flavor there. On the palate, this is really velvety and rich, heavy, luscious, but it still has good balance. I think it is actually a really complete wine. When you let it breathe a little bit, there are also herbaceous notes coming through like rosemary and thyme. So it's quite an complex, elegant wine. It almost has this saltiness on the palate as well. So I really like this. I'm going to rate this 94 points, just like Wine Spectator rated it. And I think this is a delicious wine. At 110 US dollars, it better be. I mean, this is expensive, but Châteauneuf-du-Pape is an expensive region. Now you also get some flavors of black olive tapenade, which is just, I'm a sucker for black olive tapenade in wine, and this has it. Like, that's kind of the Syrah speaking, I think. By the way, have you noticed that I don't say Syrah anymore? You know, I always said Syrah until lots of you commented that it's not Syrah, it's Syrah. And I learned. See? So in 6th place, we have a Pinot, the 2022 Roserock Eola-Amity Hills Pinot Noir from Oregon. This estate actually belongs to the Drouin family from Burgundy. They ventured into Oregon as they discovered that they make beautiful wines there, and set up this winery, which is now really well established, and it's run by the family. The daughter, Veronique, is in charge of this estate. So Domaine Drouin, Oregon was established in 1988, very early on, during a time when Oregon was not that well known. And the Roserock vineyard was established in 2013. Oregon is located north of California. It is really green, and there are lots of small family-run estates there, focusing on Pinot Noir, but they also produce nice Pinot Gris and Chardonnays, for example. The wines tend to be kind of more velvety oftentimes than what they are like in Burgundy, but they can be really complex and elegant and fine and delicate and delicious. The vineyard sits on volcanic soils at 120 to 250 meters above sea level. It is aged in French oak barriques for 10 months. 20% of those barrels are new. I just noticed something. This is also a light colored red, and that means that all of the wines from 6 to 9 were light colored red wines. I skipped the William Salem Pinot Noir, which is also a light colored red. So yeah, does that say anything? Not really, but interesting. So I think. So the wine smells of really ripe dark cherries. There's a little bit of chocolate flavor coming through as well. But yeah, it's really pure and really, yeah, really fruit driven, really beautiful. On the palate, it explodes. There's lots of freshness. The tannins aren't harsh. They are quite velvety, but the acidity is just really, and just beautiful. It just really explodes in your mouth. Quite nice. Man, that's good. That's good stuff. This wine cost 44 US dollars, which is actually pretty cheap for good Pinot, and it's delicious. I would score this 94 points because I think it is very, very good. And at that price point, it's good value for sure. So in 5th place, we have this, the 2021 Chimney Rock Estate Grown Cabernet Sauvignon from Stag's Leap District in Napa. So the most well-known winery from Stag's Leap is obviously Stag's Leap Wine Cellar, the winery that produced the wine that won the famous Judgment of Paris in 1976. This is not it. They joined the region, they came into the region in the 1980s. And well, I've actually never tasted this wine, so that's going to be a first for me too. The winery was established by Hack and Stella Wilson, and it's now owned by the Terlato family. It's roughly 50 hectares big, and their focus is Cabernet. So we are clearly moving into the dark colored reds here. I mean, look at that. That is really dark, which is obviously typical for Cabernet Sauvignon. Cabernet produces really dark wines. So this really is a pretty typical high quality Napa Cabernet Sauvignon. It has these intense crème de cassis flavors, blackberry aromas, spice, oaky notes as well. So really rich and concentrated. The tannins are still quite intense. There's good freshness there. It's fairly long. I mean, there's obviously lots of body and lots of concentration, but it still has some structure. I think this is a pretty delicious Cabernet. Would I say this is extraordinary for Napa Cabernet? I actually don't think so. I think there are quite a few Napa Cabernets that play on a similar level or are even better than this. So I don't know why it is part of the top 10. I also don't know whether it's actually really well distributed internationally, which is a factor in this, as I haven't tasted that wine very often. But yeah, still, I mean, it's a really well-made wine. But it also retails for $120, which is a lot of money. And yeah, I don't personally think this is kind of, at that price point, the best Napa can offer. I'm going to rate this 92 points. It's really good. And I think it is also really age-worthy. I think the structure suggests to me that this can age for a couple of decades. So a really well-made wine, but I'm not quite sure why it needed to be included in the top 10. You all know this wine, Tignanello, the 2021 vintage from the Antinori winery. And it's been on that list a few times already. I think the last time it was in the top 10 was 2 years ago. And last year there was also an Antinori wine in the top 10. I do like the wines from Antinori. I actually just visited Tenuta Tignanello, which was a special moment for me as well. But yeah, come on, I mean, mix it up a little. So the Antinori family obviously has been in the wine business for a long time, for centuries. And they own several estates in Tuscany, but also in other regions in Italy. Their new winery is absolutely stunning. Like I said, I just visited some of their estates and I was very impressed by the new winery, which is absolutely beautiful and quite special. And it's also a great place for tourism to get people interested in wine. You need to have like a destination as well, and they certainly built a destination there. Tenuta Tignanello covers 130 hectares, and that's the same place where Tignanello, but also Solaia is made. Back then, this wine really changed the Italian wine scene. It was the first winery that didn't include any white grapes in the mix, and that also used international grape varieties for their wine. So this is a blend of 79% Sangiovese, 13% Cabernet Sauvignon, and 8% Cabernet Franc. What I really like about this wine is also the label, which is kind of classic. It's very simple, but it also it really stands out. So I don't know. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't influence the taste of the wine, but I like looking at it. So the wine was aged for 15 months in mainly French oak, but also a little bit of Hungarian oak. And it was aged for a further 12 months in bottle before release. I think the main reason why Wine Spectator included the 2021 Tignanello in their top 10 is that it's the 50th anniversary of this wine. So Tignanello is 53 years old now. And I think that's why they selected it. But yeah, I mean, in that case, you might have not included it in previous versions of that list. I think you need to mix it up more regularly. I mean, I definitely have nothing against this wine. I really like it usually. But yeah, there are other wines in the world as well. So again, dark colored red. And the nose, oh, the nose. So the nose really smells of ripe, dark cherries. There's quite a bit of chocolate flavor coming through as well. You have a little bit of red currant aroma coming through. So it's really delicious, really pure. On the palate, the wine is rich, concentrated. The tannins are present. A little bit grippy. But I mean, this is still a young wine. The acidity is still there. It's really fresh. So you have a combination of ripe fruit character, but also lots of freshness. This is stunning. I mean, some people talk badly about Tignanello because it's actually produced in fairly large quantities. But I personally think it is really difficult to produce a wine at that level in larger quantities. It's just not easy, and they do a great job there. And this is just top notch. So yeah, I'm going to rate this 97 points, just like Wine Spectator. I'm in agreement with them. This is delicious. And the winner, in first place, we have the 2021 Don Melchor Cabernet Sauvignon Puente Alto Vineyard from Chile. Don Melchor is named after Melchor Concha y Toro, who started this famous brand in the 19th century and was one of the first or the first to bring Bordeaux varietals to Chile. The winery expanded massively. They produce a lot of wine. The Casillero del Diablo brand, for example, is one of theirs. But this wine was first released in 1987 and it's really, well, the project where they focus on premium quality. Today, the vineyard for Don Melchor spans 127 hectares and it's mainly planted for Cabernet Sauvignon with some plots of Merlot, Cabernet Franc and Petit Verdot included. When I look at the metrics, I don't really know why this is the number one wine in the top 10. The score is 96 points, 1 point less than Tignanello. The price is $175 US, which is very expensive and pretty much the same price as the Tignanello. And there's no special anniversary or anything, so I don't really know why. I think they could have clarified that, but anyways. But I think it's nice that they have a wine from Chile as the best wine of the year, just to allow some other wine growing countries to show what they got. I was actually quite impressed by some of the Chilean and Argentinian wines that I've tasted in the recent past. I always knew that they produce great like entry-level wines, but they are more and more really exciting mid-level wines. So not super expensive, but also not really cheap wines that really have a lot of character, a lot of identity. So this is certainly a part of the world that produces some exciting, outstanding wines. So it's nice that at least one wine out of South America is included in the top 10. So for the number one spot, I need to make an extra effort to hit the lens here. Come on, you can do it. No. So again, this is really, really dark in color. It's 93% Cabernet Sauvignon, 4% Cabernet Franc, and 3% Merlot. The exciting thing about this vineyard is that it's located at 650 meters above sea level. So you have a big diurnal shift in temperature. You also get more intense sunlight here. And the wines tend to be a little bit more structured, a little bit more aromatic when the grapes are grown at higher altitudes. The wine was aged for 15 months in French oak barrels, and 2/3 of the barrels were new, 1/3 were used barrels. This smells of cassis blackberries. There's a little bit of green pepper flavor coming through as well. On the palate, it's super complex, it's rich, but the tannins are there, the acidity is very fresh, it's very long, even though it has lots of body and concentration. So this is top notch. It is also clearly way too young, but that's my fault. This is definitely a wine that can age and should be aged for 10 years or something like that. But it's also delicious as it is right now. This is good stuff. Thank you, Wine Spectator. I don't think I've ever tasted this, and I don't think I would have purchased it for my private consumption. But this is exciting wine, but also super expensive. So I'm going to rate this 97 points as well. Delicious wine, great stuff. Really good stuff. So this was a great tasting. I can't say that Wine Spectator picked the wrong wines because these were all delicious. I rated them slightly different, but they were all really good wines. What I can say though is that the wine world isn't well represented here. We are missing some white wines. We're missing some Spanish wine, German wine, Australian wine, New Zealand wine. So there's more to the wine world than this. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, then please like it down here. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. My question of the day is, what do you think about this top 10 list? Any thoughts and comments are welcome down below. You can also let me know which one of those wines you would love to try for yourself. Thank you for watching. I hope I see you guys again very soon. Until then, stay thirsty.